Hello everyone and welcome back to another week's video. In this one I'm going to be talking about the idea of getting confronted when doing street photography and different ways that you can ease yourself into it if you're just getting started, because I understand that street photography can be quite daunting for beginners, and we are 2 weeks from Christmas, so I'm hoping a few of you might be getting cameras for Christmas from loved ones so you can experience photography, and more specifically street photography, for yourself for the first time. So I'm going to start this video off with a couple of questions that you should be asking yourself. The first thing is, have you had any experience with street photography in the past? Have you got any doubts or you're scared of anything? And if so, what is that? And thirdly, what do you want to shoot? Do you want to shoot people as a main focus, or do you want to shoot the scene? Because if you're shooting the scene, it becomes a lot easier to capture all different types of elements and become more discreet because you're further away from people. And that is a very good topic of conversation, because the closer you are to someone, the more they're going to notice. The way that you got to think is, people are going to notice you more the closer you are to them, because you're more disruptive to what they're doing. And street photography can happen anywhere, so you're not always going to be in a bustling city environment where you can just blend into the crowd and take someone's photo. That's not always the case, but it is quite common because a lot of people choose a city to do street because they have tons of different factors to play with, and including a lot of people and a lot of varied people as well. So if you're scared, if you're nervous, or if you find it daunting, it's probably for a few reasons. It's probably that you're scared of confrontation, you're scared of your camera equipment getting damaged because there's so much going on around you, and you're scared of the unpredictability because street photography, you don't know what you're going to get. It's not like you're going into a studio environment where you can just capture what you're there to capture and go home. There's so many different factors that you can't control. People being one of them, weather being another. All of those, depending on your outlook, can be both cons and pros, so just bear that in mind. The first thing I'm going to talk about is people and how to become invisible when shooting them. So first off, as I mentioned, people are going to notice you more the closer you are to them. Everyone's going about their own business no matter where they are. They could be walking to meet someone, going home from work, or just doing a day-to-day activity. If you're off to the distance taking their photo with the surroundings in them, like more my style of photography where I use silhouettes and shadows to create mystery and obscurity, they're not going to notice that as much as if you are a Bruce Gilden type of photographer where you're up in someone's face with a big flash taking their photo really out of the blue and unexpectedly. So you're on two opposite ends of the spectrum here. You're really far away, just using them as part of a scene, or you're right up close. A lot of you guys want to fit somewhere in between, where you're capturing people at varying distances and capturing people at a sort of everyday occurrence. So confrontation can happen. I'm not saying it won't, but it's not as often as you think. As long as you're not so disruptive to someone where they're stopping out of what they're doing, they're coming out of their mindset, looking at you and being like, hey, that guy's taking my photo, you're going to be fine. And for the most part, if someone's on and about their business, especially in a busier environment like a city, everything going past them is just going to become a blur. Cities are usually quite busy, and everyone walking past is just more white noise to them, if you will. I'll ask you a question here. How many times have you walked down the street off to meet someone or going to the shops or something like that, and you've got people walking past you here, there, and everywhere? Can you tell me exactly what those people are doing as they walk past you? The answer to that's probably going to be no, because you're not looking at every single person, you're focused on your task and what you're doing. So it's a great opportunity for you as the photographer to use that as an advantage. They're not going to be focused on you, so as long as you're not making too much of a scene, you can quite easily take someone's photo and them not even notice that you've done it. The good way of doing that is dress casually. Don't dress in a massive flamboyant outfit with bright colors. Just dress casual, jeans, top, coat, hoodie, whatever you want to do, and just make it, blend in with the people around you. Don't stand out from the crowd. You can also just use different techniques like I've used in the past, and I've mentioned in the past on this channel, to make it as if you're not taking a photo of them even though you are. You can do the tourist approach and take photos of the surroundings and capture them as you're taking photos like this and act like a tourist. Or you can do my preferred method, and that is taking a video or just taking a photo and waiting for them to get out of the way, even though you're not waiting for them to get out of the way, you're actually taking a photo of them. That one isn't worded as nicely as take a video, so I'll probably have to think of a cool name for that one too. We'll start off with take a video. If someone's walking towards you, or you're walking towards them, you're walking towards a scene you want to capture, but you don't want to obstruct the scene in any way or anything like that, but you want to get quite close, then you can take a video. Have your camera exactly where you want it to take the photo, either at your chest or at your eye, from a distance, and then walk towards the scene as it's happening, and as you go past the scene, take the photo exactly where you want it. From there, don't instantly drop your camera or anything like that. Keep it exactly where it was as you've taken the photo. Continue to walk through the scene. They're then not thinking they've just taken my photo and walked off. They're filming something as it's happening. You're in stride, if you will. They're not going to disturb you from doing that because they don't want to disturb your video, as it will, and you've just got the picture you want to take. Or, as a complete opposite, you can take the photo, just stand still, wait for someone to come to you, but keep your camera there again, and as they move past, take another photo of the scene behind them, because then you've got two options. If they do think you've taken a photo of them, they come to confront you, you can show them the newest image on your digital camera, and it be of the scene behind them. Or, more likely the case, they're going to think they were waiting for me to get out of the way, I probably should have moved a bit quicker, I was in their shot, oh no, anyway, I'm going to move on. You're waiting for that perfect picture behind that subject that you are waiting to move out your way. They're not moving out your way, they're moving into the position exactly where you want them, but you're just keeping it there or keeping it here, waiting for them to move out the way. So that's becoming invisible. For the most part, that's what you're going to be doing. You're going to be blending into the crowds and trying not to get noticed, because as a whole, it works really well. And as I say, people are just going about their own business and won't really notice you. But say they do. Say they notice you for any sense of the word, because it does happen. It isn't always negative, so don't think it is. Some people are just curious. And for that, you need to match their level. If they're happy, you need to be happy, or above their happiness level, because people are going to be more put off with someone that takes a photo of someone that's going about their day and enjoying life if they come around with a angry looking face or gloomy or down in the dumps in any way, because you're throwing someone's vibe off. I wouldn't like being approached by someone that looks really down if I'm enjoying a few beers with the mates in London or whatever, because that's not what I'm there for. I'm not there to be sad, I'm there to have a good time. So if you're gonna have to approach someone because they've noticed you take their photo, be happy, give them a smile or a nod. If they've just looked directly into your camera after taking the photo, just say, oh, you look lovely, stuff like that. Little nods like that really go a long way, even if it isn't a full-blown conversation. But just come across happy, come across not down in the dumps, not negative, because if you hit down there and someone's up here, it brings them down there. But if they're here and you're here, it brings them here, or it keeps them where they are. It doesn't bring them down. So for the most part, just be positive, because yes, sometimes it does happen where you need to interact with the people that you've taken photos of. It doesn't happen a lot, but sometimes it does. Just interact with them, be normal, Yeah, I took your photo because I liked what you were wearing, or yeah, you matched the scene really well, it just looks good, here's the photo, can delete it if you want to. Always give them that option, because they'll most of the time say, no, don't worry about it. Delete it if they want them to, it's only a photo at the end of the day. Sure, it might have been a good one, but, having that conversation, usually they're absolutely fine with it. And then you've got to also judge if they are the right subject to take a photograph of. If they don't look happy, if they look negative, I tend to avoid taking photos, especially if I'm up close to them. I don't take photos of someone that is looking in distress, homeless, anything like that. They're my things that I avoid, and I've got a video dedicated to that on the channel. So just find that, you'll get that over time more so, but just understand what is good and what isn't good to take photos of when it comes to the people, and you'll be fine. And then when you match them, great. Absolutely fine. Now, as I mentioned, there are quite a few unpredictabilities with street photography, and depending on your outlook, they can be positive or negative. So let's talk about the main ones. That is weather, the type of people you're encountering, and the lighting conditions and all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of pros to be had with that compared to negatives. Sure, if you've got completely flat light, then you're not going to get harsh shadows and natural contrast like that, but you can photograph in monochrome, and turning it completely on its head and spinning positive on it. You can photograph artificial light around cities, especially neons and stuff like that. And with the winter months, you're getting a lot more grey days, but you're getting longer evenings. So you're getting a lot more darkness from the sky at night, but you're getting a lot more neons and rainy puddles and all that sort of stuff. So if the light is flat, sure, it won't create natural contrast with the sun, which we all like, but it can allow you to shoot more in monochrome and experience that. It can offer you the opportunity to shoot more at night because there are tons of different options there. And to be fair, when it comes to winter, I'm shooting more at nighttime than I am anything else. And that's mainly because the nights are much longer, but there are all sorts of things that you've got to think about. If the weather isn't good, don't just be a fair weather photographer, go and experience it. And then, if you're lucky, it will start to rain. And I say that with a pinch of salt here, because if you're, not using a camera that's good in the rain, you might need to get a clear bag to go over the lens and just push the lens up to the end of the bag because it will keep your camera dry and secure. But when you're shooting in the rain, you get a whole different element. You get a whole reflection element, you get all this sorts of stuff. And basically, any light that is hitting that puddle, you are doubling the amount of light in your image. So, say you are shooting at night and it's just finished raining and you're shooting this puddle and there's a neon sign behind it. You haven't got one neon sign, you've got two. So, that's two light sources for your subject to be lit by. And you've got the element of reflection as well, which is a great thing to take photos of. And then, of course, you've got the other fear that you've spent a bit of money on this camera equipment and you don't want it to get damaged when you're out and about. If you're doing, portrait work in a studio, then you've got that controlled environment. It's not going to be that much at risk to get damaged or to get stolen or anything like that. On the street, it's a different kettle of fish. There's so many unpredictabilities when it comes to what you're going to encounter that anything can happen to it. The long and short of it, anything can happen. But I am a massive advocate of being as safe as possible and keeping your camera gear safe, and that is always the case. So for me, I always have my camera attached to me somehow, whether it be a neck strap or my more popular one is the wrist strap because it's always here. If someone tries to yank it out of my hand or anything, it isn't going anywhere because it's on my wrist. I'm also trying to avoid confrontation where possible, again, going back to the whole not taking photos of someone in distress or something like that. Or if I do by accident, if they ask me to delete it, I will, or I'll show them the image and say, look, you look great, da 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 da, and try and put a positive spin on it. Because if you're coming at someone negative and like what I said, there's more chance of confrontation and then more chance of your camera gear getting damaged. So always think about insurances when you've got, your equipment. If you're at home or if you're traveling, get travel insurance. If you're at home, personal protection, all that sort of stuff. I've mentioned that in a previous video as well because obviously it is a big deal. Not to say it's going to happen, and not to say you should be worried about it happening, because if you're worried about going out and taking photos, you're never going to do it. So you need to sort of take that risk, if you will, although it's not a big risk. There's a risk to everything, and taking this risk will give you, an absolute joy of your day, taking photos of random things that you find interesting. There must be a reason that you want to do street photography, and don't make that a blinding, don't make it blinded by all the cons of street photography or all the risks, because the pros far outweigh the cons. So don't worry about it too much, although you've got to have it in your thought of your mind, because you've got to be aware of your surroundings and stuff like that. But don't let it overrule what you want to do, because what you want to do is create good images, and that's what you should be doing. And there's a reason why you want to do street photography, right? So just have that in the forefront of your mind, because it is important. I think they're the main points: confrontation and how to become invisible, taking photos of people at the right time, and just keeping your camera gear safe as possible. I didn't go into that in too much detail because I've got a full dedicated video on the channel if you do want to watch it, but don't be scared. Just go and do it. Live life. Take a chance, because there's not many things that can go wrong, and if they do, keeping yourself safe should be the number one priority. And material things can be replaced, right? It's the memories and stuff like that that can't. So just be as careful as possible. Go out and do it, and realize, if you want to take a photo of people uninterrupted, then you can't be Bruce Gilden and go up to someone with a flash right in their face. You might have to take a step back and adapt to the scene. But the more you do it, the more you will get comfortable doing it. That's another main point. So just keep that in mind. The more you do it, the more you're going to get better at doing it. The more you're going to feel confident about getting closer and all that sort of stuff. So don't worry. You're going to be fine. And I hope this video sort of talked about it in some ways. Thank you so much for hearing me waffle on. I'll speak to you next week for another video where we'll be walking around doing something